Smoking ribs. Is it mandatory to remove the membrane off the back of your ribs for quality ribs? We're gonna cook a couple slabs and find out right now. Let's go. We're gonna start with a couple of full racks of spare ribs here. We're gonna trim these down real quick to make St. Louis spares before we turn them over and mess with the membranes. So let's trim these up real quick, show you how I do a quick backyard trim. Now when you look at this piece of meat here, you got this kind of dangly stuff. This is gonna kind of burn up, dry out as you're cooking it. So we're gonna take that off right away. You can save this, grind it up for sausages. You can make just ground pork out of it and use it instead of ground beef or anything like that. Good meat, don't get rid of it. Flip it over. Next thing we're gonna do is there's this big hard bone that runs across here. That's called the chine bone. We're gonna take that off. You kind of wanna find the spot where there's no bone there and just kind of come all the way across. Now this bone here is hard, but we can cut that off and then you get great meat for rib tips here. This is where your rib tips come from. We're saving these. I always save my rib tips and I love throwing them on the smoker. That's a great treat. Now where I got this idea about testing no membrane versus membrane is I recently did a video where I hung ribs in my Weber Smoky Mountain, kept the membranes on those ribs because I didn't want them falling into the grill if they got too tender. So I thought to myself, that was easy. We didn't have to remove any membrane. Let's see if we really need to, if it's gonna be a tough bite or not. So that's where this idea came from. Square this off a little here. Just got a little bit of this flap here, take that off. A lot of fat, dangly fat here. Just give a quick once over there. Again, these aren't competition ribs, these are backyard ribs. So I think that's pretty good right there. So this one, let's leave that membrane on. This is looking really nice. Rib number 2, we're gonna do the same thing. Let's take this meat off here, this little bone, kind of square that up, find that chine bone, and about the 3rd or 4th ribs in is gonna be kind of your tallest one. So just kind of score across there, right across, square it up. Boom, another set of rib tips off to the side. It's really good to have a nice sharp knife when trimming. Just makes things go a lot easier. This one's got a little dangly rib here. That's not gonna eat well. Let's get rid of it. Boom. All right, let's get rid of this skirt. Again, all this is good meat. You wanna save it. Unless you're not doing that stuff, get rid of it. Let's take the membrane off of this guy here. Now for me, I like to find a bone somewhere in the middle here. Just get under it with a butter knife. Kind of make your way up with it. Get your thumb under there as far as you can go. Just kind of pull it across, pull it across. That leaves a little strip on here. Sometimes that's good to keep it all together, but we're not worrying about that today. We want to see how good these are going to be with and without this membrane. See, sometimes this membrane takes a few passes. That's why it would be great if it didn't matter, because I usually do this with all my ribs. Get that membrane off and cook it up. Now you can clearly see that this one has the membrane on it, large bone on the left with the membrane. This one here, we got our larger bone on the right, no membrane. You can see the way the angle goes, no membrane, large right, with membrane, large left. That's how we're gonna remember this. So let's season this up right now. We're gonna hit this with a couple of my favorite rubs. Gonna start with Smoking Ghost all-purpose rub. And we're just gonna season these both exactly the same. Then our second layer we're hitting with Chicken Fried Barbecue's Texas Rib Grind. This adds more depth of flavor, more color. My favorite thing is the way it looks. It's got these coarse pieces of pepper in here. Just a fantastic rib rub. And finish it with that rib grind. We have our rib seasoned up. They are looking and smelling fantastic. Now let's go get that Weber Smoky Mountain fired up. Today we're using some B&B oak charcoal. We're gonna put some cherry chunks in here. I think cherry and pork are such a great combination. So we're gonna run that up. We got a couple of wax cubes in here, get this fire started. Once we get a nice coal bed burning in the middle there and those wax cubes burn off, we're gonna put this back together. And today we are using the fire dial in here, not using a water pan. So let's get these on the grill. So the ribs are looking great. They're tacking up nicely. Let's go get these on the grill right now and see how they turn out. Weber's fired up. We're reading right about 240 right now. I'm okay with this running between 250 to 300 for this cook. Ribs are set up, looking really nice and tacky, so it's perfect time. Let's get these ribs on the Weber Smoky Mountain. I do like always pushing them together. That way when it cooks, it's gonna keep that meat in there and you're gonna get a thicker bite of meat at the end. All right, ribs are on, let's shut it down. We'll come back in maybe 2 hours, check on the ribs, give it a spritz, see where we're at, see if we're ready to wrap it yet. This isn't gonna be a 6-hour cook with the Weber Smoky Mountain and the fire dial. I'm usually getting ribs done 3.5, 4 hours, so we'll keep you posted on how long this takes. Let's shut her down and come back in a couple hours. All right, we're about 2.5 hours in on these ribs. Let's go take a quick look at them, see how they're doing, see if they're ready to wrap up here. Yeah, these ribs are looking fantastic, beautiful color. Don't really want them getting any darker. We are gonna wrap them. They will get a little lighter in the wrap. Let's take a look. You can see that these are the ones with the membrane still on. You could tell by the way it's looking here. Membrane off. You can see that it's a lot juicier, getting a little darker. These are looking perfect though. Let's go ahead, get these wrapped up. And all we're gonna do is hit it with a little Meat Mitch womp sauce and a few pats of butter. 1, 2, 3. Get some sauce across here. Just get these beauties wrapped up. I'm gonna go meat side down. I'm gonna do the same to the back here. A couple pats of butter. And just drizzle with some sauce. 2 sheets of foil, try to make sure nothing pops through. Back on the grill. Two and a half hours in, looking great. Only butter and some sauce. We'll come back in about another hour, check the temps, check some tenderness, and see if they're ready to pull off. We'll be back in roughly an hour or so. So after about another hour, I went into these ribs, unwrapped them, checked the temp, and checked for tenderness. And these things were feeling amazing, super tender. We're at that temperature we liked, which was in the 205 to 208 range. Perfect for spare rib. So we pulled these off, gave them a flip, poured some of those juices right over the top of it, and we're gonna let that set up for about another 20 minutes or so. As of right now, these ribs have been on for exactly 4 hours for spare ribs on the Weber Smoky Mountain. Now, it is cold out. Right now, it's a feel like -6 degrees out. So I'm gonna pull these off, show you the backside of them, slice them, taste them, see if I feel a textural difference or not, and then get in the house because it's cold. Let's go pull these ribs off. Okay, we got our ribs. They are pulled off. Let's first take a look at the backside since that's what this whole video is about. Now you can see on this one here, this is the one that had no membrane. We took it off. And you can see a lot of this rib poking through, these bones poking through here. That's because there was nothing to protect that rib from poking through. Let's take a look at these here. These have the membrane on it still. Really don't have much bone sticking through. Both look great. Now it's time to slice into these and see if we can tell the difference based on bite. Go right in the middle. Both no issues with the cut through. First off, let's just take a second to admire these ribs here. Perfectly cooked. Normally I'd let these rest a little while, but it's so cold out here, we're just gonna jump in. Maybe I'm gonna burn my face off, let's see. Perfect bite through. Perfect bite through on both sides. No textural issues at all, but this is the one that had its membrane removed. Now for the important part, let's check the one that still has the membrane on and see if it makes a big difference or not. Nope. To the other side and show you. I did feel it pull a little bit underneath, right in this area where the membrane would be. I felt it kind of slip off, but these are cooked so well, you would never know. If I did not know what this experiment was, I'd have no idea. I gotta say, based on these bites, tenderness, flavor, texture, I don't see a difference. I honestly don't know if I'm gonna go back to removing membranes. You just gotta smoke them right. That thing's gonna break down. Again, if you don't know that there's a membrane on or not, you'll never know. That's if it's cooked correctly. If it's undercooked, it may be tough. Get the ribs to 205, 210, you're gonna be money. So for me, it's almost not worth it to take the membrane off, especially if you're gonna be doing a bunch of ribs. If you're doing 5, 6, 7, 10 slabs of ribs, why waste the time? If you like what we did here, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. We'll talk to y'all soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.